Global Publishing presents Cash Flow with Ron LeGrand.
Make an appointment to see the house. That's what's next on our agenda. We've gotten all the way through to the system now where we're ready to go see the house. Now the scary part. Boom, 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 boom. Oh no! Now we actually go knock on the door. It was easy, and I didn't have to confront anybody. But now he's asking me to literally knock on a door and actually talk to somebody face to face. Oh no. Okay, now listen to me. Remember that the people you're going out to see need to sell. Also remember, they called you to begin with, then you called them, then they answered your questions, and then they invited you to their home. You are not an encyclopedia salesman knocking on their door uninvited. You're not an unwanted pest. You're a welcome guest. Get it out of your head that you're going to go knock on the door and you've got to answer all these questions you don't know the answers to and you don't know what to say. Just fake it till you make it. Because you won't go into 2 or 3 houses till you finally realize, geez, that was easy. What the heck was I worried about? Those people are bumbling idiots. I'm smarter than they are, which may or may not be true. But I can assure you that your attitude will change only after you've been there a couple times. Because you can sit around and conjure up what it's going to be like all day in your head until you go out there and do the experience. It's sort of like sex. It was a little bit different than you expected, wasn't it, the first time? It scared the heck out of you too, didn't it? But you got over it. Okay. We've calling them back on the telephone, and we basically just verifying a few facts and making sure that we're on the same mindset. And now we're just going to make an appointment to go see the house. But several things you need before you go see the house. Number one, got to get the blanks filled in. Remember, got to have at least R of asking loan, and you should have the rest of the property information sheet filled out on that conversation. That's when you find out how many bedrooms, how many square feet, is it, what kind of work does it need, and all the other details that you want to know the answers to that bug you. You get them on that conversation. And that'll take care of most of this list. And now, if you want to go do some market analysis research, now's the time to do it. Before you go to the house, so you know what you're dealing with. Go pull up some comps. Go on Zillow, which is pretty much a worthless comp source. You better not be trusting Zillow. I'm going to tell you, they're all over the place on Zillow. Whatever you're going to use to pull up comps, now's the time to do it. Just go do your homework. In fact, if you want to, go. Here's the easiest way to do comps. Go into a neighborhood where this house is at, find one that looks similar to it, that's got a real estate sign in front of it, and call a realtor and ask what they're asking. Voila! You just did a market analysis. As long as it's similar to your house. As close as you're going to get, as close as you need to get right now. You'll know whether the seller's in the ballpark or not. And by the way, how do you think the seller arrived at their market value? They call the same sign. If it's got special amenities, I'd want to know. I don't want to know if it's got a pool, something like that. I'd want to know if it's got a big, 60 by 60 workshop in the backyard. And now you got to get a clear idea in your mind, really, what you need to know when you go out and see this house. What are you looking for? First, you just want to see what condition the house is in, don't you? Don't you? That's all you want to do. Go see if they're telling you the truth. Go see if there's anything that bugs you about the house or getting to the house or the neighbors or whatever. And you will not know this till you get there. Or one of your representatives get there, which you will soon replace yourself and send others out. And then go see the inside of the house. see if it's in pristine condition, ready to go, or if it smells like cat pee. You need to know this stuff. You can't take anybody's word for it except your own person that you've trained. You can't take the seller's word. You have to assume that everything the seller has told you up to this point is a lie. You got to go verify that it's not. And if you want the house. And also, you're going to get some surprises sometimes when you go out there. You're going to find out that sometimes when you get to the house is when they disclose to you that, they're behind 4 months on their payments. Or that, hey, I forgot to tell you about this $30,000 second mortgage I got. That would have been something I would have liked to have known. Yeah. That's when you decide whether it's a pass or a play. And when you get to this house, here's some tips. Number 1, you take nothing inside this house with you except an envelope with a few pieces of paper in it. You do not take a briefcase in the house to impress them. Nothing in your briefcase is going to impress them. In fact, it's going to depress them. Your job is not to go out there and look so sophisticated they're afraid to do business with you. And the last thing you want to take into a house is a cell phone. I'll bet you that if you leave that cell phone in your car for the 20 minutes you're going to be in that house, that the world will not come to an end. And the last thing you need is somebody calling your cell phone when you're in a house trying to get $50,000 worth of equity and you answering it like an idiot. You can live without it. Don't take it in. There's no reason for you to take it in. Except to piss off the sellers. And you very well might get some that you killed the deal. The minute you elect to take that call from that doofus who wanted to know, will you stop by the store and pick me up something? Not that doofus, the other doofus. Put yourself in the seller's position. If you were in the seller's position, you'd want this person that you haven't really met yet, that you're afraid of, to get in your house, solve your problem, and get out of your house as fast as possible. They're not looking for a new friend, and neither are you. They're not looking to build a relationship. They're looking to sell their house. They don't want a real estate seminar. They want somebody who can make a decision to take this load off their mind. You're not there to impress them. If you're going to a $200,000 house and you got a 3-piece suit with a gold chain hanging out of your pocket, you're not impressing them, you're scaring them. If you're going to a $3 million house, a tie or a business suit is applicable. Or not. I really don't care. But shorts are not. And I don't care if it's 120 degrees outside. You have to dress like you can raise money, but not overdress so sharp that you scare people. If you drive up to this house in a clunking, beat-up pickup truck that's smoking, how's anybody going to believe you got the ability to buy their house or make their payments? Now, I'm going to suggest to all of you that you go buy a brand spanking new Mercedes. And, of course, you're not going to take me up on my suggestion. But you can believe me when I tell you, when you drive a Mercedes up, your credibility just went up. And I'll tell you something else. You can't sit behind the wheel of a Mercedes and look out over that emblem and stay depressed for long. Huh? Not to mention, of course, it's a nice automobile. I don't care what you drive. Just don't drive an old beat-up car and expect to impress anybody that you have the ability to solve their financial problems. That's all. So you get to the house. You have a yellow manila file folder in your hand with a get the deed package in it, which I'm going to go over in a few minutes, in case you need it. And you knock on the door. with no cell phone in tow and no briefcase. And you introduce yourself and you walk in the house. And they'll welcome you with open arms. And you just take a look around the house. And the first thing I say when I say this in class a lot, this is truly what I say. Can I take a look around the house? Yes. No dogs or naked people or anything? I expect them to chuckle. I'm trying to break the ice. And by the way, I want to know if there's any dogs or naked people. Yeah. And I literally walk through the house in less than 2 minutes. There's no need for you to see the attic. And there's no need for you to crawl into the house. You're going to walk through the house, and it's going to look, and pretty soon they're all going to look alike. And you're going to get bored out of your mind just walking through the house. Okay, it's a pretty house. Good. All right, we're done. Got bedrooms, got bathrooms, got a kitchen, got a dining room, got a living room, got a garage. It looks like the last 1,000 of them I've been through. Yeah, looks good to me. It's sticks and bricks and boards and shingles. They all look alike. You ever notice? As long as there's nothing in there that makes me want to gag or bothers me, it's just another house. It's either in good shape or it's not. You do want to take a look for functional obsolescence if it's an older house. You probably won't find it in newer houses, but you still ought to go through there with your eyes open. For example, a 5,000 square foot house with one bedroom is going to be a little difficult to sell. And you might run across them like that. So if there's nothing that bothers you, okay. Any questions? Well, if they do, you answer them. You answer them quickly, to the point, and then what? Shut up! Okay, are you ready to get the paperwork done? Yes? Go out to the kitchen table, not the living room, where your knees are in the air, sitting at a coffee table. You're doing business, you need to do it at the kitchen table, where you can sit and write a little bit you're going to write. And in your file folder are a couple of pieces of paper that we're going to go through here in a minute. All you do is whip those pieces of paper out and get them to sign them, and you're done. You make arrangements for when they're going to get out of the house. You get an agreement on that, and then you tell them, I'll be back with you, and I'll let you know when you can go get the closing paperwork done. And that's it, guys. It ain't complicated. It ain't hard. It don't take long. And you don't need to worry about what's going to take place in the house. There is no magic. You're either going to buy it or you're not. And quite often, if you're not, it's because you don't want it. And then you're going to leave. You're going to leave with a contract, or you're going to leave without a contract, but you're going to leave. And the quicker you get out of there, the better both parties are going to like it. First, you make an appointment. And then you keep your appointment. And if you got a deal, and it looks like a good deal, and you don't get out there immediately, then you deserve what's likely going to happen. Just keep in mind, you're not the only investor in your city. One, it could be somebody else finds their way to the cellar. Two, every day that goes by is a day that somebody else could come along, or they could change their mind, or they have a conversation with their drunken brother-in-law that says, don't deal with them investors, they're crooks. When somebody is ready to receive you, it is your obligation to get out there as fast as you can. Not put it off because it's not convenient. You either want the house or you don't want the house. If you don't want it, don't tell them you're coming. And if you don't intend to go, don't tell them you're coming. Just tell it like it is. There's not enough equity in this house to get me involved. Sorry, I can't help you. Not, well, let me think about it and I'll call you back. Horse pucky. You already thought about it. Why tell them that lie? You ain't calling them back. You're a liar. There's not enough equity. I don't see how I can buy it. I'll bet you if you develop the habit of just telling it like it is, you're going to grow to like it after a while. Because when you do, you have a clear understanding with people, and they're either going to deal with you or not, but when they do deal with you, they're a whole lot more fun to deal with. Because you've already established the reputation that you're going to tell it like it is. If you don't tell it like it is, the other side can pick it up real quick, and they'll know you're lying. And they won't trust you. Probably justifiably so. You may not think they're going to like what you say because it seems negative to you, but you don't have the right to make that choice. It's your responsibility to tell them the facts, and then they will decide. I can't tell you how many times a seller says something like, well, how do I know you're going to make my payments? My answer is easy. You don't. Is that a problem? Well, no, just asking. Okay. Or I could go on for 2 hours giving them a song and dance on how perfect I am, of which they're not going to buy any of. Sometimes they're just testing you. They're just testing you to see if you tell them the truth, huh? So, handling objections is what we're getting into next, right now. We're going to go through some. First one is objections on getting the deed. There are a few that you're going to run across. They're in your manual. My answers to those objections are in your manual. They're not difficult to answer. You're not going to memorize them word for word, nor do you need to. You just need to memorize the point that you got to make. The words you use to make it, they're going to be yours. Can memorize them if you want to. I wouldn't. But you got to expect that people are going to say these things to you, even though most of the time they won't. And that's something you will not believe or learn till you get out in the field and test it out for yourself. Because you're having a hard time. Why is anybody going to deed me the house and not at least ask me, how do I know you'll make my mortgage payment? It bothers you, doesn't it? Because that's what you would ask, right? Right. It's the first thing that pops into your head. The first time you heard me say somebody will give you a house, you said, that's a load of crap. There ain't nobody going to give me a house. And there ain't nobody going to leave the loan in their own name. That's what you said to yourself. And you keep on saying that to yourself until they do. Then you say, that was a fluke, it'll never happen again. And then you push through and you do it again. Then you say, golly, maybe there is something to this after all. And then 50 houses later, I can't believe what I was worried about in the beginning. People do it all day long. And just for the record, how many of you in the room here right now have ever had somebody give you a house and leave the loan in their own name? Would you stand up, please? Would you stay up for a minute so that the rest of the class sitting down can look around and come to the conclusion that I can't possibly have planted that many relatives in the room? And for those of you listening on CD, 50% of this room full of 463 people just stood. Getting the deed is a commonplace thing throughout our society, whether you're accustomed to it or not. It's going to take place whether you choose to get involved or not. And you're going to quickly come to the conclusion that people will give you their houses, they will leave the loan in their own name, and they really don't care about all these things that we're going to discuss that you think they care about. But just in case they do, what's the answer when somebody asks you, how do I know you'll make my payments? My answer is, you don't. Or, you could use the sexy one in the book. Do you have any reason to believe that I won't? And now you're putting the onus back on them. If you can force yourself to shut up. And you can follow that with, well, if you don't feel comfortable, I'll make your payments, and if the thought will keep you awake at night, perhaps you shouldn't sell to me. What do they call that? They call it the takeaway close, don't they? If it won't work for both of us, we probably shouldn't do it, and I really don't want to buy if you don't want to sell. Wouldn't you agree? Try it. See what happens. You know what will happen? You'll diffuse them and the air just leaks right out of them. They don't know what to say now. They were expecting you to give them a how great I am speech. And you flat black told them, hey, if you think I'm not going to make your payments, don't sell to me. I'm probably going to live through it, whether I buy or not. Will you? I can leave. You can't. You're going to be shocked when you learn how few times you hear that question. Because people have this internal need to believe you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Because if they don't believe that, they know you can't fix their problem. And they don't want to believe that. They want to believe you can fix their problem. Well, why won't you make my next payment instead of waiting 2 or 3 months? See, I haven't covered that, have I? Well, I'm going to cover it right now. Because when I go into a home and I'm taking over a debt that is current, I'm always going to ask for them to make the next 3 payments minimum. Always. Now, I'm not going to get away with it with payments in arrears. But when those payments are current, I expect them to make the next several payments. Here's my elevator speech. John, you had this house listed with a realtor. Well, first I ask them. You got to first tell them. Say, look, I'll take over your debt. Let's just say today's what? I don't know. Let's just call it today, January the 15th. And you're in the house. Your conversations have led you to believe that they're ready to move whenever you're ready for them to. You say, well, John, you say you want to be out of the house by the end of the month, which means I'm going to ask you to make the February payment, which is for the month of January, because interest is paid in arrears. And it is. The payment due February the 1st, the interest portion of that payment was to cover the January interest that accrued. No matter how John sells his house, he's going to make that February the 1st payment one way or another. So that's not a big concession to get out of him if he lives in the house in January. John, I'm going to ask you to make the February 1st payment for the month of January. Then I'm going to ask you to make March and April, and I will pick it up in May and keep paying it until it's paid off from that point on. Okay? Now, there's only 2 things John can do. He can either say, okay, in which case you say nothing, or he can say, what? In which case you should be mentally prepared, shouldn't you? Shouldn't you? In fact, you're going to be kind of upset if he doesn't say, what? Because you were prepared. You feel like you wasted all that practice time. And then you got to come back with something like, John, and you need to memorize these key points now, because there's nothing you can do except memorize them. You got to come back with why John should make these payments and why it should be a non-issue. 1, if he's had the house listed. John, you had the house listed for 6 months and it didn't sell. How many payments did your realtor make for you? Well, none. And if we don't do business today, how many payments do you think you're going to make anyway before you sell it? Well, I don't know. Well, if we do business, I know 3. So the first issue is realtor. Second issue, John, I didn't ask you to pay any closing costs, did I? Well, no. Well, isn't it customary that you'll pay more closing costs than the measly extra 2 payments I'm asking you to make? Well, yeah. Well, then making extra payments is more than fair. Wouldn't you agree? I guess so. And John, wouldn't you feel better knowing in the morning when you get up this house is sold than still on the market with phone calls still coming to you and people still tramping through your house and asking you stupid questions? Yeah, well, you can have that if you agree to make 2 extra payments. and John, do you think it's fair for me to ask you to help me help you? There is nobody can stand that barrage, ladies and gentlemen, if you do it correctly. Now I have it on CD so you can go back and practice it. You should always get free months, at least 2 or 3 or more. There are going to be times when you're going to want to ask for more just because you think you can get it. And by the way, what's the worst they can say if you ask for 6? No, well, then how many will you make? Well, how many you need? Well, I wanted 6. Get it? All right. I can't remember ever taking over a deed, getting a property bought, taking over a loan when the house was current that they didn't make some payments. And you keep in mind something. If you don't get them to make the next 2 or 3 payments, that means you got a payment due soon. And the more you can get free time, the more you can play the market and find the best buyer without a payment. So you owe it to yourself to get these 3 payments and get over it that you're scared. You'll get over it. You just try it a couple of times and see that was easy. And of course, the first thing you're going to say is, crap, I could have got 6. Because you're dealing with what kind of seller? One who needs to sell. You won't get 13 minutes from one who wants to sell. All right. So why won't you make my next payment instead of waiting 3 months? I think I just answered that, didn't I? Because I need time to find the quality occupant that I would want in my new home. And frankly, it could be as simple because I'm not interested in making payments on vacant houses, and this is the only way I can buy. You give me a little time, I'll give you debt relief and stress release until this thing is paid off. You go away, forget it. It's now my problem. And I'm not asking for much, but I want my time. Well, when will you sell the house and pay off my loan? Think you're going to get that one? You're going to get a lot less than you think you are. I don't know. But I do know this. I'll be making those payments every single month, and your credit will be getting better and better every single month. And when I get it paid off, you'll be notified. And when I do, it'll show on your credit report as a paid off loan, and you'll look like a hero. And that's true. When I pay off their loan, it'll show as a 0 balance on their credit report. In the meantime, it'll show being paid every month. You know why it'll be showed paid every month? Because if I promise them I'm going to get it paid, I'm going to get it paid. That's why. Vacant or occupied. Because you see, I'm not worried about it being vacant. I got 3 months to find a good quality tenant buyer. And when I do, I'm going to get thousands of dollars of their money. And if they move later, I'm going to set aside some to make that payment while I'm reoccupying it and clean it up. Because this is a real business. So I'm not worried about not making their payment. Or you could say, I can't give you an exact time. It'll be up to the tenant buyer to make the decision, tenant or the buyer to make a decision. I can tell you this. I'll keep paying your payments until we get it financed or sold or cashed out or whatever. That's all you can do, guys. That's all you can do. And if they don't want to do that, you can always kick into the option mode. All right, then. That is if you want to. We've covered that. There's got to be a bunch of equity in it, or I'm going to say, well, that's the best I can do for you. Call me if things change. And you better write that one down. It's the best I can do for you. Call me if things change. Because guess what, guys? 50% of the time, they will. You don't ever want to close the door. You always want to leave the door open. And you've got to be willing to walk. You've got to be willing to walk. It's better you walk away than into a minefield. Because you want the deal so bad you make promises you can't keep or won't keep. If you walk and they come back to you, the deal gets sweeter. Now their head's on straight. And sometimes you just gotta let them cook a while. They're not done yet. Sometimes they just have to come to grips with the fact that if I want to sell this house, I gotta be a little bit more flexible than I am. I got a buyer here. I got somebody that's serious. I got an easy solution, and I'm about to lose them. Maybe I should give in a little. Maybe that wasn't so important to me after all. And some people just need time to think about it and come to that conclusion. And I want them to come to that conclusion before I do business with them. If they don't want to deed me the house and leave the loan in their own name, God bless them. I don't want their house. I don't care how much equity's in it. Unless we can do an owner financing and fix it that way. And I'm not going to lie to them. Because every time you do, it comes back and bites you in the fanny later. Tell it like it is. And deal with those who want to deal with you. Well, why don't I just list it with a realtor? Well, I don't know. Why don't you? And by the way, will they make your payments while they're selling it? Well, sell it to me and I'll make your payments starting in May. I'm willing to buy your house now. That means I'll start making your payments when you and I agree. If they want to list it with a realtor, let them. But suggest to them that they make it a 90-day listing, just in case the realtor doesn't perform. And also suggest to them, listen, if that's what you think is best for you, please do it. But I would strongly suggest to you, you do not sign a listing for more than 90 days, and they will pressure you to sign it more. That way you have an out. And if it doesn't work out the way you think, would you please call me at that time? I'll leave the door open for you. I'll leave the light on. Your seller cannot possibly have a bad impression of you if you don't try to cram the deal down their throat and you point blank tell them, okay, try it your way. If it don't work, come on back. You're the name and phone number they very well might keep for future reference. Well, I need to let my attorney see the agreement. You sure? Is there something you don't understand about the deal? Well, no. Well, I just want my attorney to review everything. Well, okay. So you're saying then you're not going to agree to sell me your house today until your attorney reviews the agreements, even though, of course, you told me you were on the telephone before I agreed to meet you. So in other words, you weren't telling me the truth. Oh, God. I just want my attorney to review the documents. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's a blank purchase and sale agreement. Go have your attorney look at it. If he says it's legal, call me. And I'll tell you how to get to my office where we can meet again. Because I won't be coming back to the house. And that's exactly what I mean. I did what I said. I came to the house. Now, if you don't want to do what you said, you can chase me from now on. This window's about to close because I really don't like dealing with people who don't do what they say. I'm not telling them this. This is what I'm thinking. And you know what? I might even be telling them this at my stage in life. No, I'm not kidding. I am just case hard enough and been around long enough that I'll just tell them like I feel. And, it may end the relationship or it may make it stronger. But I ain't taking their crap. And so if you take their crap, it's your choice. You won't for long. You'll be just as case hardened, just as nasty, just as mean. Because, you see, now you're into the world of business. You're out of the world of becoming an employee. Now you're into the world of becoming an employer. And as an employee, you've always had top cover. You've been sheltered your entire lives as employees. You've got somebody else making the major decisions for you and taking the hits for when you make the mistakes. You just don't get lied to as much as an employee as you do out in the real world when you're in business. When you're in the world of business, you soon learn that everybody's a liar. You don't believe anything you're told because very few people deliver on their promises. And you have to learn to deal with that. And you have to learn soon that that's the way it's going to be. So you get sick and tired of people jerking your chain and telling you stuff they have no intentions of doing. So you, in time, develop that attitude. It's called pre-screening is what it's called. And sooner or later you will develop the attitude to deal with the people who want to deal with you and weed out the ones who want to jerk your chain and, waste your time and not do what they say. Somebody tells me they're ready to get the paperwork done today when I come out to their house. And then I get out to their house and they pull this attorney trump card on me. I basically just internally got pissed off, whether I show it or not, because they lied to me. Now, if they want to go to their attorney, okay, here's the contract. I ain't filling it out. Well, don't you want to fill it out first? No, we don't have an agreement yet. Remember, you want to go see your attorney. Nothing to fill out. So if you want to go take it to your attorney, there it is. It's a standard purchase and sale agreement anyway, class. There's nothing the attorney's going to say bad about it. So I'll tell you what, you take it to your attorney, and then if you want to do business, you call me back and come see me, and I'll fill it out for you, and we'll go from there. And by the way, while you're at your attorney, see if he'll buy your house. Maybe he will. You never know. Kind of brutal, huh? Next and last objection in this section. What if the seller wants to buy another house or afraid you won't make the payment? Now, we've touched on it, but we need to touch on a little more. If the seller's big deal is either they're afraid you won't make the payment or they just don't want to leave the loan in their own name and just deed the house to you because they're afraid you'll ruin their credit, your last tool is buying it with owner financing from them. Or if they have a problem, if they tell you that they are going to go get a new loan to buy a house, you should be asking them, well, will your debt ratio support this debt showing on your credit? Can you really go qualify for another house with this loan still on your credit? If the answer is yes to that, you don't need to go here. Just get the deed. If the answer is no to that, then you can say, well, I got a solution for you. Instead of you just transferring ownership to me and me taking over your debt, I probably should buy it from you with an owner financing device showing that you're receiving a payment equal to your outgoing payment, so that your lender will see that your income equals your outgo as far as this house goes and won't affect your debt ratio. And guys, that ought to be about as complicated as you get with this explanation. You've got to remember to keep it simple, simple, simple. Don't assume that because you've been exposed to all these fancy words that seller knows anything about, owner financing or all these fancy terms you're hearing. Explain it to them assuming they just graduated from the 3rd grade. I'll buy it from you with owner financing. I'll make the payment to you and you can pay the bank if you wish. Or if you want, I'll pay the bank directly. But I'll give you a piece of paper, not a land contract, not an all-inclusive trust deed, not a wraparound mortgage. I'll give you a piece of paper showing that I'm making a payment to equal your outgoing payment so you can take it to the bank and it's a wash and you'll qualify. That's all they need to know. And only if it's an issue. In my opinion, it's not an issue you should bring up. It's an issue they bring up. If you do this, it's imperative that your attorney closes it, which would be my favorite choice anyway. And there's some protective devices. If you don't owe them any equity in this mortgage, if your wraparound device is for the same amount as their loan, you need to insist on making the payment directly to their lender on a check with their loan number on it and their name on the bottom left-hand corner, so it's easily referenced, just like you would if you took it subject to. Worst case, you insist on making it to a third-party escrow company who then makes the payment. That's the worst case. I've never had to do that, but that's something you could also pull out of your hat as well. And then you must know that not all lenders will accept their wraparound device without a payment history. That's their problem, not your problem. But you should know that just because I buy today with a wraparound device and they take it to their lender next week, their lender might say, well, we need to see a few payment histories on that before we're going to accept it. Now, of course, they can always say, I'm going to another lender. Or they can wait. There's nothing you can do about that. And don't you even think about backdating that device to solve that problem for them. What do they call that? Fraud. Well, not exactly, because you are not applying for the loan. You can't commit lender fraud on a loan you're not applying for. Unless you, well, I guess they could make the case that you did, because you intentionally rigged the device to trick a lender. That's lender fraud. All right. Now, you don't need to worry about how to write up that wraparound device, because that's not your job. Your job is to get an agreement. It's your attorney's job to write up the wraparound device. And you just tell your attorney what you're doing it and why you're doing it for. If you actually owe the seller more than they owe, it gives you all kind of opportunity here to adjust your payments accordingly. You can owe the seller more than they owe and still have the exact payment going out that they're paying if you want to. If your property can't stand any higher payment, you just set it up that way, and don't get bogged down in the details. If I'm creating a wraparound device and it's wrapping around underlying mortgages, all I got to do is put it in my purchase and sale agreement that the payment on this note will equal the payments on the underlying notes. And I'll let my attorney figure out the rest. Somebody's got to figure out, well, what interest rate do we plug in here? You don't need to know that right now. What's my favorite interest rate when I'm paying? Zero. Yeah. What if they got a big equity in the difference between their debt and my debt to them, and I write my entire wraparound as principal-only payments? Wouldn't that be sweet? Pretty soon there's no equity left because my principal payments are going to pay down a lot faster than their underlying debt. But, of course, they need to understand that. Also, don't you ever sign personally on an agreement for deed, an AITD, or a wraparound mortgage. If you're going to buy the property, you buy it in an entity. That entity could be a land trust or it could be an LLC. Even if you're buying it using a land contract. On a land contract, there's no personal liability. They can only take the property. But if you buy it with a land contract and they want to take the property, don't they still have to file suit against you personally as the buyer? Yes? Yep. Well, guess what? That'll pick up on your credit report. You don't ever buy anything in your own name. You buy it in an entity, whether you got personal liability or not. That's why they created entities, so that you can have a presence beyond your personal name. Your name should never go on public record as the owner of anything. Different subject, different class. All right. Handling objections on options. To me, options are just another way to buy the house if I can't buy the house. Options are controlled without ownership. That's all they are. I have a contract that says I may buy to give me time to sell. And remember, as long as I have a contract that says I can buy, I'm legally capable and able to sell that property before I actually take title to it. And in case you think there's something wrong with that in some way, ask yourself, how does eBay work? half the stuff sold on eBay is stuff that folks go on eBay or another auction site and agree to buy and then throw on eBay to sell and have drop shipped directly to the end buyer. They don't take title to it. They don't even pay for it till they get paid in some cases. Some of the largest commercial projects in this country are sold because somebody puts them under contract and then flips that contract to somebody else, or closes on it and then quickly sells the property. I know this because a couple of properties we bought, we've paid. I know one project that we bought, the people we bought it from received $1 million and they never owned the project. I have another one where they're going to wind up getting $2 million out of the deal for flipping it to us. In case you think this quick turn stuff doesn't work in commercial as well. We've bought a project in Myrtle Beach that we bought for $18 million in June of the previous year. They paid $5 million. When we closed on it for $18 million, we were offered $28 million. We turned it down. It is now appraised raw land as $33 million, horizontal development done $48 million. We're going to put 500 condos on it and sell them out for about $400 million, with a total cost of land development, land and building of about $250 million. So does it make any difference to us that the person we bought the property from paid $5 million and we had to pay $18 million? Now it could. It could have bothered us so much we just refused to buy that project. Because the greed glands took over and defied math. To me, the math is real simple. 250 in, 400 out. Let me think. Yeah, that'll work. But the guy we bought the land from made $13 million. Yeah, but we'll make 150. Yeah, but he didn't do any work. Yeah, he did. He found the property, he bought the property, he raised the money, and then he sold the property. That's called free enterprise. And I don't care what he made. God bless him. He's going to hate himself when he sees those condos sitting there, but God bless him. All right. Handling their objections. If you're dealing with the right kind of seller, you'll very seldom get any. However, when you're dealing with upper price range houses, is it reasonable to assume that you're going to have more sophisticated people who ask more sophisticated questions? Yes? All right. Before we go any further, are we going to option a property unless we've already been offered a boatload of equity? No. So with that fact alone, can we assume that the person we're dealing with very well may be sophisticated, but frankly the equity in this property is of little concern to them? And here's something you ought to know about people with high-end properties. Equity don't mean squat. Too many of them. Hey, I'm one of them. When you get to the point to where you're not scrounging for dollars, and you got property, and you got equity, equity's all fiction anyway till it turns into cash. When I got a high-end house, especially if I got 2 or 3 of them, and one of them becomes a thorn in my side, the equity, get the thorn out of my side. And if you can do it, quickly do it. People with high-end houses quite often have a totally different motivation than you might expect if you don't own one of those high-end houses. And getting every dollar out of the property and squeezing it may not be their motivation. Getting rid of a big debt might be, if they've had a change in their circumstances. But I tell you, more frequently, you'll find these houses are free and clear, and they just want to move the property because they don't live there anymore, and they're out of state, they're pain in the neck, and they're tired of it. And they'll give away free equity to get rid of it, especially if they get cashed out. We as Americans, we get tired of stuff real quick, don't we? I know I do. The newness wears off. You get bored with it. Next. And by the way, guys, that does not apply to women. Mercedes? I usually keep mine 4 or 5 years, but yeah, I get bored with them. I just don't get around to go getting another one. I got me a brand new one. You know what? It don't drive any different than my old one, though. I just got tired of the color on the older one. There wasn't a thing wrong with it. I got bored with the color. So I went out and I got me a black one with black interior. Now I'm going to get the windows tinted so I look like a pimp. Our drug dealer. Okay. If you walk into somebody's home and you expect to get a positive answer from them, you might start by giving them the reasons to answer positively. For example, if I pay you all cash, what's the least you could take? Isn't that the answer, a question you're going to ask to get to the bottom line for what you can option the house for? You know, you don't say, well, if I option your house and I pay, you say, if I pay you all cash. If you option their house and you sell their house, are you going to pay them all cash? Yes, you are. If I pay you all cash, what's the least you could take? And now you get an answer. And then if you like that answer, I'll spend my money and resources to sell your house for cash with no risk to you. All I need from you is a key to show it and an option to buy it, and I'll start immediately. Will that work for you? That's just a fancy way of saying, okay, I'll give you that number. You got to give me time to get it to you. That's all it is. And all I want from you is a key and an agreement. And I'll kick into gear, and I'll do the work, and I'll spend my money. And I'll devote my time and my resources to finding the buyer for you that can cash us both out, and we both get paid. How can you lose? Well, we're about to answer that. It's not hard to get people to option you their house if they have a reason and they understand why they can't lose. So if you can answer these objections, well, why should I let you tie it up? I tie up my house. Well, because I'm going to focus on it every day. I don't get paid till you get paid. All they need is a key to show it. You're not taking any risk. I'm spending the money. Again, it won't do me any good to option your house unless I find the buyer. So what do you have to lose? Well, why should I let you tie up my house? Well, don't tie up your house. If that's a problem for you, I'll put a little paragraph in our agreement that says if you find a buyer before my option expires, I'll tear up my option and we'll part friends. Is that fair? And there, ladies and gentlemen, is the key that will allow you to option many houses that you won't option any other way. Because if I option a house from you, I do tie up your house. You can't sell that house until my option expires. But if I put a paragraph in there that says you can, I'm not tying up your house. Go sell it if that's what you want to do. And you'll find very few people who will actually sell their own house once you've optioned it. As far as they're concerned, now they got you on the job. No need for them. Besides, if they were going to sell it themselves, they'd have done it before you came into the picture. So if they ask, and only if they ask, you give them an escape clause. You find a buyer first, I'll go away. Is that fair? And if you want to, you can say, you find a buyer first, I'll go away. Under one condition, and that is, when you close, give me my advertising money back then that I spent, and I'll prove to you what I spent. Is that fair? And by the way, if that's not fair, you've probably got a relationship you're not going to like here. Well, why don't I just list it with a realtor? Well, perhaps you should. And if that's what you want to do, go do it. But I promise you, you won't get the focus I'll give it. Because a realtor's got several properties to work on. I've only got yours. Every day when I get up, I'm thinking of your house. Every night your house is in my prayers. When I'm watching TiVo, I'm really thinking of you. When I'm having sex, you're on my mind. Or something similar. Well, why won't you make my payments while you're selling my house? Well, if you list it with a realtor, will they make your payments? No. Well, neither will I. I'm going to spend my money selling your house. I'm not going to make payments on your house. If you want me to make payments, perhaps we should talk about me buying your house and taking over your debt. Is that more to your liking? Well, no, I don't like that plan. Well, then I can't make payments while I'm spending my time and money to sell your house. There's no income coming from your house to offset the payments. Therefore, I can't make them. Well, why won't you give me a larger option deposit? Mr. Seller, as soon as we get this agreement okayed here, I'm willing to start spending my money on advertising, drawing attention to your house. There's a lot of things I can do with my time. I've chosen, with your participation, to use it on your house in the hopes that I'm going to make money doing it and get you paid what we agreed. I'm giving you a $100 deposit simply because it's consideration, not because you need it or want it. And by the way, how big was the deposit your realtor gave you when they tied it up for 6 months? I'm not tying it up. I'm spending my money. So now that I think about it, perhaps I should be asking you for a deposit. How do I know you're going to be there when I get a buyer and I've done my job? See how easy it is to turn that around? If you're not in a fetal position, begging because you've done something wrong and you need to justify your existence and apologize, it's an attitude, isn't it? It's called posture. Incidentally, who needs whom the worst? Are there more houses on the market for sale or people who have the actual ability to get them sold? Yeah, you're in a whole lot bigger demand than their house is. Well, how long do you need to option my house? Well, how long do you want me to keep selling your house at my expense on my time with no risk to you? In fact, how many people out there like me would you like to have selling your house? How long do you want me to option it? What's the most you can give me? Oh, I don't know. What are you, 30 days? No, sir. I can't even get the machine cranked up in 30 days. I said, what's the most you can give me? How long do you want? 6 months. By the way, guys, if you can't sell a house in 6 months, you don't need it any longer. If you haven't got it sold in 6 months, you need to abandon the project and jump ship. If it's not sold in 6 months, another 6 ain't going to help you much. It's just going to aggravate you more. Truthfully, if I haven't got a buyer online in the first 30 to 60 days, I'm out of here. I'm going to hit the market, and I'm going to hit it hard, and I'm going to bring in the buyers, and we're going to pre-screen them, and we're going to try to get it done. And if we don't get it done, I got bigger fish to fry and better things to do. But I don't want to be put in a position to where just about the time I get the thing cranked up and brought heat to it, then the deal expires, and I got to go sucking up to the seller again. It's up to you. You don't need longer than 6 months. In reality, you don't even need 6 months. But it doesn't hurt to ask for it. It doesn't cost any more. And then if you have to back down, fine, back down. Remember, you're not taking the house off the market, if that is applicable. If they haven't asked about that and you haven't agreed to that, then hey, what the heck? I'll option a house for 3 months, especially if he can't sell it until my option expires. I'm happy with that. And I don't have any other outside interference, including him messing with it. These are simple questions to answer. Well, how do I know you'll sell my house? Well, I don't. I do know this. If I don't, I'm going to spend a lot of money and not get any payment. And frankly, That ain't in my plan. I'm not a non-profit organization on purpose. Obviously, I think I can sell your house, or I wouldn't be doing the job and spending my time and having this conversation with you. Because I don't work for nothing. Can you guys do this? Huh? This ain't that hard, is it? No. Is it? No. You're never going to hear these objections anyway. I just thought it would might, fill up the book. But let me go over my pre-agreement speech one more time for you. We've agreed upon a price. We've answered objections, if there are any. And we're ready to go get paperwork done by my attorney. Now we need to have one more parting little session. Mr. Seller, you understand that I'm paying you $500,000 for the house, and that I intend to sell it for as much more over above that I can get and keep the difference. Is that correct? Yes? When I find that buyer and we get ready to close, do I need to worry about you getting kinky on me and wanting to change the deal at the last minute? Well, no. I'm a man of my word. Okay, well, good. So am I. And I think we need to have a meeting of the minds right now before I go to work. Because I like clarity, don't you? Well, yeah. Okay. If I go to work on your house and I find the buyer and I bring him to the table, and you then try to change the deal, I'm not going to go away. I will enforce my rights to the hilt. I've done this before. And just for the record, you're not going to go around me and eliminate me and take my buyer. Now, I know you wouldn't do that. But I felt incumbent that we have a clear meeting of the minds. Don't you agree that's the best thing for us to do right now? Okay. Are we clear now? I think politely and gently I've made it very clear. I am not someone he's going to take advantage of. So let's get that notion out of your head right now. Before we go to an agreement and before I spin my wheels selling the house. That's called clarity, and I'm going to tell you, it's served me very well. All right. Short sale objections. Maybe you're going to be in somebody's house and their payments are going to be behind and somebody's actually going to have an objection. Let's see. I doubt it, but let's just see. Well, why won't you make up my payments now? Well, because I don't know what your lender's going to do. They might discount and they might not. If they don't, I probably can't make up your payments. If they do, I might be able to do it. I'm not in control. I'll make your payments up, maybe, or I might get it discounted, maybe, but I don't know right now. If the seller's not happy with that, well, you're just going to have to move forward based on the information you got. If there's plenty of equity in it, maybe you can agree to make up their payments now. If there's not, and a short sale is the only way you can do this deal, then you better not agree to ever make up their payments, or in fact, ever pay their loan off, or save their credit, or any of those things that might be tempted to come out of your mouth because you don't want to lose a deal. Don't make promises you can't keep. Then you don't have to keep them. Really that simple. You will learn and adopt that business practice, especially if you make a couple that you can't keep, because it's not a pleasant thing when you know you made a promise and you're not keeping that promise. Keeps you awake at night. Doesn't make you feel real good. So you'll learn. Maybe I can head that off before you have to take that seminar. And frankly, if it doesn't come out of your mouth, then it's not a promise.